they get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies infested hen house.
And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last week.
Yeah, they have nothing else to talk about. Maybe you should get the lawyer that worked on that Covington Catholic school case. What was that?
So here's the thing. It's not often that you see two of the biggest voices in American commentary. Two men who built their careers on calling out hypocrisy and saying exactly what others are afraid to say actually find themselves on the same page. But that's exactly what's happening right now. Bill Maher and Joe Rogan are locking arms, and the target in their sights? The View. Now, let's break this down because for years, The View has been the daytime show that thrives on controversy, it thrives on drama, and it thrives on pitting one strong opinion against another. But lately, it's been slipping badly. And when someone like Joe Rogan starts hammering away at the credibility of the show, pointing out how out of touch it's become, how it represents this insulated echo chamber that doesn't reflect what the majority of Americans are actually thinking, that's already bad news for ABC. But when Bill Maher, a guy who's been part of the liberal media establishment for decades, who's built a career on HBO challenging right-wing voices, who's supposed to be in the same ideological neighborhood as The View, when Maher comes in and basically says the same thing, the same criticisms, the same frustrations, that's not just bad, that's devastating because it tells the audience, even people who lean left, even people who once defended The View, that maybe the critics are right. And that's where this team-up becomes lethal, because Maher and Rogan don't agree on everything, not even close, but when they overlap, when they both land on the same talking points about hypocrisy, about censorship, about the fake virtue signaling that daytime TV has leaned on for so long, that's when it hits differently, because it's no longer a partisan critique, it's no longer just conservatives rolling their eyes. It's voices from both sides saying enough is enough. You can already feel the ripple effects. Fans are sharing the clips, sponsors are watching nervously, and suddenly The View, this show that thought it was untouchable, is facing pressure like it hasn't in years. And the most damaging part? It's not coming from politicians. It's not coming from faceless online critics. It's coming from two of the most recognizable names in American media. And here's the kicker. Both Rogan and Maher have audiences that dwarf The View's. And that means when they speak, the echo is louder, the headlines run longer, and the internet reaction, explosive, unstoppable, and impossible for ABC to spin away. This isn't just a critique anymore. This is a coordinated narrative shift. And for The View, that might be the beginning of the end. So here's where it gets really interesting, because it's not just that Bill Maher and Joe Rogan are criticizing The View. No, what makes this moment so explosive is why they're doing it, and how their critiques hit right at the show's foundation, the very things that have kept The View alive for over 2 decades. Think about it. The View has always sold itself as this space for all voices, this panel where different perspectives collide, but in reality, it's been shrinking, narrowing, becoming less about debate and more about preaching, less about diverse conversations and more about clapping for the same approved takes. And when Rogan calls them out for being an echo chamber, and Maher, of all people, backs that up.
But with that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in, and they always bring on a token conservative woman and they yell over her and silence her, and they did that with Meghan McCain, and they did that with what is that other blonde woman from Survivor? Do you remember her, Jamie? She was always yelling. I mean, it's a bizarre show.
That's like ripping the curtain off Oz, exposing the machine behind the spectacle. Joe Rogan, love him or hate him, reaches millions every single day with the Joe Rogan Experience, a platform where every guest, whether it's a scientist, a comedian, a fighter, or a controversial political figure, gets space to speak, and that authenticity, that rawness, has become the gold standard for what audiences actually want. Unscripted, unfiltered dialogue, not carefully edited sound bites. Now compare that to The View, where every conversation feels preloaded, Every clapback feels rehearsed, every viral moment feels engineered, and audiences are catching on. They're tired of the fakery. They're tired of seeing the same headlines recycled. Whoopi Goldberg shuts down this. Joy Behar explodes over that. It's predictable, it's stale, and in a media landscape that's moving faster than ever, stale is deadly. And then you've got Bill Maher, who for decades was almost the patron saint of the smug liberal monologue, now turning around and saying, actually, you guys have lost it. That is brutal, because Maher isn't speaking from the outside. He's speaking as someone who used to defend the very same positions, someone who's been inside the machine and is now saying the machine is broken. Audiences trust that. They take it seriously and they start to ask, wait a second, if Maher is saying it's gone too far, maybe it really has gone too far. And here's the bigger problem for ABC. Maher and Rogan aren't just throwing out criticisms and moving on. No, they're sparking conversations. They're fueling podcasts, YouTube breakdowns, TikTok clips, comment sections, Twitter threads, and each one amplifies the idea that The View isn't just bad TV, it's irrelevant TV. And irrelevance is the one thing a legacy network cannot afford. Because here's the reality. Audiences are no longer loyal to the TV screen. They're loyal to authenticity, and authenticity is exactly what The View has been bleeding out for years, while Rogan and Maher thrive on it. And when you put those two names together, Maher, the insider critic, Rogan, the outsider bulldozer, you get this pincer movement, one hitting from within, the other from without, and The View is caught right in the middle with no good way out. So what does that mean going forward? It means sponsors start asking tough questions. It means ratings continue to dip. It means online backlash grows louder. And eventually, the network has to decide whether propping up The View is worth the cost, or whether the audience has already moved on to Rogan clips, Maher rants, and the countless spin-offs that thrive on tearing the show apart. Because here's the blunt truth. Culture has shifted, and The View hasn't kept up, and now that two of the biggest names in media are putting that truth into words, there's no walking it back. This isn't just Maher and Rogan throwing shade. This is a cultural verdict being delivered in real time. And unless The View radically reinvents itself, which seems unlikely given its track record, we may be watching the beginning of the end for one of the longest-running shows on daytime television. And if it does collapse, people won't say it was because of bad ratings or tired arguments or network politics. No, they'll remember it as the moment Bill Maher and Joe Rogan teamed up and said out loud what millions were already thinking. The View isn't a view anymore, it's just noise. And in the era of authenticity, noise doesn't survive.